What did you learn of big pharma that maybe the rest of the world who's not in the business won't know? Meaning, it gets a lot of criticism, a ton of criticism, right? From today, I think Pink did a ad on her Instagram profile, and the shout out was towards Pfizer today. And what she did do, she got a big pushback from a lot of different people because she turned off. It's the second one. Click on the second one right there. I think that's the one. And at the top, if you click on that picture, what does it say at the top? I don't know what you're doing, Rob. Does it just go away?
Yeah, I'm not.
Just read the top right. Read the top right. Top right, it says paid sponsorship. No, click on it again, and you'll see top right, it says paid sponsorship Pfizer. You won't be able to see it, but if you do it on your Instagram, that's what it shows, okay? Anyways, she turned off the comments. And everybody starts posting it saying, why did you turn off the comments? Because she never turns off the comments because most people went after Pfizer, right? Hey, you're taking the money, you're doing this, you're doing that. From a guy that's in that space, how dirty is that world?
So I think it's the dirtiness that bothers me less about it. I could point. I think the dirtiness on Wall Street exceeds the dirtiness factor in pharma. Yeah,
I would think so.
I would say so. Yeah.
In what way? I'm curious.
I lived in the hedge fund. I mean, I think the raw game playing, the raw type of sort of quasi fraud behavior, just saying one thing and doing another. The motivations of most people who work in the industry. I think that's actually the biggest. Actually, it took me a while to get to. That's the biggest difference. I think most people who work in the pharma industry genuinely in some way wanted to work on medicines that make people's lives better. I think most people who work on financial institutions on Wall Street wanted to turn a pile of green pieces of paper into a bigger pile of green pieces of paper. There's nothing wrong with that motivation, but it turns out when things go wrong and the managerial class then runs the show in both institutions, the latter of them leads, I think, to, in more fraudulent or quasi-fraudulent directions. The problem in pharma is, my biggest problem with it is different. It is built in the shadow of the FDA, okay? Literally, you asked me for something that most people who aren't in the industry wouldn't know. I think the org structure, like the organizational structure of most companies, is literally built on modeling itself after the agency that regulates it. Okay, and the FDA doesn't just decide which drugs to approve. That's a common misconception. The FDA governs, and its decisions govern every little teeny tiny step you take along the way of drug development. You have to ask daddy for permission to, lift the hand to take it to your mouth before you swallow the food, and then after you swallow it, and then to take another bite. That's the level of permissioning required. And so this entire industry has built itself like one of the arms of the administrative state, and it mostly operates kind of like the administrative state. It's a bunch of managerial bureaucrats that run the show. They're very consensus-driven, which is to say that they engage in groupthink all the time. If trends shift in one direction, you're not going to see somebody step out to be a contrarian. Why? Because just like the government, most big pharma companies, if you take a risk and you succeed, like let's say you're the guy who developed Lipitor and advocated for putting money into it before it became a mega blockbuster, you're not seeing any of that personal uncapped upside. On the other hand, if you're that person who made that decision and it fails, you might lose your job or have your budget cut. So people have no incentive to actually step outside of the mold to challenge conventional dogma and succeed. They're regulated by a government massive Byzantine bureaucracy that literally even the titles in the org chart are modeled directly after their corresponding titles at the FDA, that it more operates almost like a wing of the government than it does like most segments of the private sector. Then you get the patent system that creates this monopoly profit that once you get to the other side of the line, once you get to the promised land, the monopoly profits actually disguise the effects of normally what you'd get in consumer products markets or something like this through competition that has more that disciplining effect on an organization. It further ossifies that bureaucracy. So my main critique of big pharma is that it operates as the embodiment of the managerial class in the private sector. And, it's a long story for another day, but that's what actually created the opportunity for me to found Roivant to develop drugs that pharma had neglected or passed over, but to do it in a way that, often even bought up some of their own projects off their own shelves and developed them. And, 5 of them are FDA-approved products for medicines today.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.